Elysium Lake, located in the wilderness of northern Oregon, is known for its majestic beauty and absolute tranquility. The journey to this lake had been planned for months, and finally, Sarah and her friends decided to take the long-awaited trip. The group consisted of 4 people: Sarah, Lucas, Emily, and Jack, all close friends from college, who shared a love for exploring wild places. The trip went smoothly until they neared Elysium Lake. A strange gust of wind suddenly blew through, making the group shiver. Though the temperature didn't change, the air became heavy and eerie. "Something's not right here," Lucas said, his eyes scanning the surroundings as if searching for something. They continued to walk deeper into the lake area, where they planned to camp for the night. The group had already prepared tents, food, and necessary camping gear. As they reached a quiet spot near the shore, they all felt a strange sensation creep in. Sarah saw a shadow in the darkness, flitting between the ancient trees. "It's probably just an animal," Jack said, trying to brush off the uneasy feeling in the group. However, that feeling couldn't be shaken off, and the tension was palpable. Despite the oddness, they set up their tents and prepared for a night outdoors. However, that night, everything would change forever. Night fell, and the group sat around the campfire. The sound of crackling flames filled the air, creating a cozy atmosphere. However, as the night deepened, everything suddenly became eerily quiet. No wind, no animal sounds. Suddenly, when Lena went into the forest to fetch water, she disappeared. No screams or sounds were heard. The group immediately stood up, calling her name, but there were no traces. Everything around them was silent, as if Lena had never been there. The group panicked and searched everywhere in the forest, but there was no trace of Lena. A sense of confusion overwhelmed them, and they began to feel the presence of something unnatural. Suddenly, they realized that Elysium Lake was not just a regular destination, but a place hiding a dark secret. The group decided to return to the lakeshore, hoping that Lena might have returned to the tents. But when they arrived, they found strange marks on the ground, leading to the farthest part of the lake. A chilling sensation filled the air, and they knew that nothing would ever be the same again. As the group followed the strange marks, they gradually found themselves in a desolate part of the forest. There, they discovered a stone with the carving of a large gate, like an ancient symbol. No one spoke, but they all felt that Lena had been pulled into another world. Suddenly, they heard a faint call from afar, as if someone was calling their names. The group stopped and looked at each other, fear rising within them. It seemed as though something invisible was watching them from the tall trees. A shadow flashed quickly, then suddenly vanished into the darkness. Emily called out loudly, but there was no answer. The group stood still. Then a voice echoed from the shadows. "She cannot return." The voice from the shadows continued. "It's time for you to face the truth. Elysium Lake is no ordinary place. It is a gateway between worlds, where souls are trapped." The group stood frozen, the strange words from the shadows still echoing in their heads. Once again, they called Lena's name, but there was no reply. "What do we do now?" Jack asked, his voice trembling. "We can't give up. We have to find her. We can't leave her behind," Sarah said. her voice resolute. As they stepped into the next area, a chilling sensation flooded the air. Under the dim light from their flashlights, they saw an ancient door carved into the rock. The door bore strange symbols, identical to those they had seen before. "This is the entrance," Sarah whispered. Behind the door was a long, dark hallway with rough stone walls. The atmosphere grew heavier, as if they were walking into a place not meant for humans. As they ventured deeper, strange footsteps echoed from behind, but when they turned around, no one was there. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the stillness, startling the group. "She is close, but to save her, you must face the truth about Elysium Lake." The voice came from somewhere in the darkness, haunting and ominous. The group moved forward, the atmosphere growing more oppressive. They noticed another door at the end of the hallway, but this one was different. It was made of old wood and covered with strange drawings. Though the door seemed harmless, an odd feeling made them hesitate. As they opened the door, another space appeared, a large room with no windows, only dim light from a strange flame in the center. Beside the flame were old photos, strange paintings depicting Elysium Lake. One particular painting caught their attention. It depicted the missing friends. Lucas stepped closer to the painting, immediately recognizing it as an image of Lena. "This is where we must face the truth," he said seriously. "Elysium Lake is a gateway, not just to this world, but to another world, one where souls are trapped. So we have to close this gate," Sarah said. "If not just Lena, but all of us will be trapped forever." The group looked at each other, their resolve growing. They knew that to rescue Lena and all the other souls, they would have to break this curse. The group stood before the gate, preparing for the final battle. Sarah opened the ancient book Mrs. Marissa had given them, reciting an ancient incantation. The strong wind began to blow through, and the symbols on the gate lit up brilliantly. As she finished the final incantation, a loud explosion rang out, and the gate began to crack. However, before it could collapse completely, a massive figure appeared before the gate. It was a powerful soul, the one who had guarded the gate for so many years. "She will not escape unless a soul sacrifices itself," the spirit said in a deep voice. "Who will be the one to sacrifice themselves to close this gate forever?" The group looked at each other, no one willing to go. Jack stepped forward. "I will do this," he said, his voice filled with resolve. "This is the only way to save all of us." He walked towards the gate, and it shattered in a brilliant light, breaking the curse forever. Jack stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the gate that was slowly cracking. The group stood still, no one daring to move. They knew Jack had decided to sacrifice himself to save them all, but the pain and loss still overwhelmed them. A chilling sensation filled the air as Jack moved closer to the gate. As Jack touched the gate, a powerful surge of light erupted, engulfing him. Everything around seemed to stop moving. The souls began to rise. Sighs and words of thanks echoed in the air. Jack stood there, the light around him slowly dimming. And then, He disappeared into the darkness. When the light faded completely, the group stood frozen, unable to believe what had just happened. The gate had closed, and the air around them now felt lighter, free from the threat of the trapped souls. But Jack's loss was something they could never forget. So, "Jack saved us," Sarah said, tears streaming down her face. But the price was too great. The group stood together, looking at the place where the gate had vanished. They knew they would never forget Jack, the friend who sacrificed himself to save them all. After Jack's sacrifice, the trapped souls seemed to find their release. The group felt a sense of peace in the air, and the atmosphere around them became lighter. "Thank you, Jack," Emily whispered, as if she could feel his spirit somewhere nearby. However, even though they had escaped the curse, the group still felt Jack's absence. They had lost a friend, a true hero. But in their hearts, Jack would always remain a part of this journey, and all he had done would never be forgotten. The group decided to leave Elysium Lake, carrying with them the precious memories and lessons about courage, sacrifice, and friendship. Though this journey had ended, they knew that the story of Jack and his sacrifice would live on in their hearts. As they walked back along the trail to leave the lake area, the atmosphere around them became calm and peaceful. What once was a place of fear and darkness was now gone, and Elysium Lake had returned to being a serene place, no longer haunted by the trapped souls. Sarah looked towards the surface of the lake, feeling the peace that had returned. She knew that even though Jack was no longer with them, what he had done would always be remembered. Elysium Lake, though filled with mystery and danger, had now returned to peace. Before they left, Emily turned back for one last look at the lake. "We won't forget, Jack," she whispered, and the group left Elysium Lake, carrying with them precious memories and valuable lessons about friendship and sacrifice. The group left Elysium Lake, a sense of relief and peace enveloping them. But there was also an inescapable sorrow. They couldn't forget Jack's sacrifice, the one who helped them free the trapped souls and close the mysterious gate forever. They stopped at a spot near the forest, where they could take one last look at the lake. Although the lake had returned to peace, in each of their hearts, part of the memory of those strange events would live on. "We will always remember what happened here," Sarah said, her voice choking. Though this trip was unlike any other they had taken before, they knew they had overcome the greatest challenge. Sarah looked at her friends, feeling a stronger bond than ever before. "We didn't just save Lena," she said. "We saved ourselves." Before leaving, the group decided to do one last thing. They left signs by the lakeshore as a way to remember Jack and all the souls that had been freed. Though Jack's sacrifice couldn't be undone, they hoped those souls would find eternal peace. As the group finally walked down the path away from the lake, they knew that this place, though mysterious and terrifying, had become a part of their lives. And as this story was told, they would remember Jack and all that he had done to save them and to keep Elysium Lake safe from darkness forever. Blackwood Mountain is located in the western United States, famous for its dense forests and unsolved mysteries. A group of close friends, including Jake, Hannah, Mark, and Lily decided to go on a hiking trip to explore Blackwood Mountain, a remote place few dared to venture. They had planned this trip for a long time, wanting to challenge themselves and explore the less-traveled paths, even though they had heard of strange phenomena in Blackwood Mountain. They weren't too concerned, thinking it was just myth and folklore. Everything went smoothly on the first day. They set up camp, cooked, and told stories around the campfire. However, as night fell, a strange sensation began to envelop them. Odd noises came from the forest, unlike any animal sounds. "It's probably just the wind," Mark said, trying to ease the tension. But none of them felt comfortable. They exchanged glances. A sense that something was amiss lingered in the air. Night fell, and as the group was preparing to sleep, Lily suddenly stood up. She said she needed to use the restroom and walked into the forest. "Where did she go?" Hannah asked when a few minutes passed, and Lily hadn't returned. The group hurriedly stood up, calling out Lily's name as they searched the forest. But no matter how loudly they called, there was no response. A sense of confusion overwhelmed them, and they didn't know what to do next. After hours of searching in vain, they returned to the camp, hoping Lily had just gotten lost and would come back. But there was no sign of her. The atmosphere grew heavy and eerie. The air felt stagnant. "It's impossible. She can't just vanish like that," Jake said, his voice filled with worry. "We need to keep searching for her." The group ventured back into the forest, but this time, they felt as if something unnatural was watching them. Ever since Lily's disappearance, the strange phenomena grew stronger. With every step they took in the forest, they felt as though something invisible was watching them. Odd footsteps, shadowy figures flitting between the ancient trees, and the feeling that some force was lurking within the forest. While searching, the group discovered a strange cave hidden behind large rocks. Lily might be inside, Mark said, his voice filled with hope. But as they entered the cave, a chilling presence overwhelmed them, and they felt the presence of a supernatural force. Inside the cave, they found strange symbols carved into the stone walls, like warning signs. "We've gone too far," Hannah said. "Maybe we shouldn't go any further." But Jake and Mark were determined to uncover the truth, not letting Lily be forgotten. As they ventured deeper into the cave, suddenly, a hidden door opened, revealing a dark space within. This was the place that held the secrets of Blackwood Mountain and what had happened to those who had disappeared before. As the group entered the cave, the space suddenly became dark and cold. The light from their flashlights was just enough to reveal moss-covered stone walls and strange markings. Each step they took seemed to bring them closer to a truth they could not fathom. Suddenly, Mark stopped and pointed at a stone wall. There were strange symbols deeply carved into it. "Look, these symbols are identical to what we saw on the gate at Elysium Lake," Mark said, his voice trembling. "Maybe everything we've been through is connected," Hannah said, her voice filled with doubt. "The trapped souls. And these places could be gateways to another world." The group fell silent, realizing that everything they had done could be part of a much bigger story. As they continued exploring, they found a large, heavy door, guarded by similar symbols. This door seemed to lead to a secret chamber, where the dark secrets of Blackwood Mountain awaited to be uncovered. The door slowly opened, revealing a dimly lit chamber with thick stone walls and ancient altars, each adorned with strange figurines. An eerie chill filled the air in this cold space. "We need to be careful," Jake said, his voice warning. "This could be where the trapped souls are." The group stepped into the room, each step making them feel like they were entering a world not meant for humans. One by one, they approached the altars. The figurines had strange glowing eyes, and one of the altars had a small stone box. Mark opened the box, and inside was a black gemstone that emitted a faint glow. "This could be the key to freeing them," Mark said, his voice firm. "This gemstone might be the source of the mystery in Blackwood Mountain." His words made everyone feel a rising fear and curiosity. The group decided to continue their exploration and learn more about the gemstone. They returned to the main room, but as they turned, suddenly a loud noise echoed from behind. One of the walls in the room began to move, revealing a secret passage. The passage led them down a stone staircase, winding and long, seemingly endless. In the dim light from their flashlights, they discovered paintings on the walls, depicting a massive gate, like a gateway between worlds. "This could be the gateway to where the trapped souls are," Sarah said, her voice filled with worry. "We have to break this curse before it's too late." The group continued down the staircase, determined to uncover the secrets of Blackwood Mountain. They knew that this journey was not only to find Lily, but also to save all the souls trapped in this world. The group decided to continue their exploration and learn more about the gemstone. They returned to the main room, but as they turned, suddenly a loud noise echoed from behind. One of the walls in the room began to move, revealing a secret passage. The passage led them down a stone staircase, winding and long, seemingly endless. In the dim light from their flashlights, they discovered paintings on the walls, depicting a massive gate, like a gateway between worlds. "This could be the gateway to where the trapped souls are," Sarah said, her voice filled with worry. "We have to break this curse before it's too late." The group continued down the staircase, determined to uncover the secrets of Blackwood Mountain. They knew that this journey was not only to find Lily, but also to save all the souls trapped in this world. As the group stepped through, they found themselves in a strange realm, resembling an ancient forest, but without natural light. The trees grew tall, yet they were unlike any type of tree they had ever seen. Everything had a dark hue, as if haunted by an invisible force. "This is not the world we know," Mark said, his voice filled with concern. "Where are we?" Sarah looked around and noticed strange markings on the trees, resembling ancient symbols. A voice echoed from behind. "You've entered the world of trapped souls. This is where all souls pass through, but not everyone can leave." The group turned around and saw a shadowy figure standing not far from them. "We need to find Lily," Sarah said, her voice determined. "She must be here, and we have to free her." The group moved towards the shadowy figure, trying to approach and understand the words of the spirit. The shadowy spirit turned and said, "To free your friend, you must pass the final test, approach the gate, and pay a price for her freedom." The group had no choice. They knew they had to face this trial if they wanted to save Lily. They approached the gate, and immediately, a strong wind blew through. Strange paintings appeared in the air, depicting scenes of sacrifice and loss. Sarah felt a sharp pain in her heart as she saw images of Jack. "To save Lily, one of you must sacrifice." The shadowy voice continued. The group stood still, no one wanting to make that choice. But they knew that without sacrifice, they would not be able to free Lily. The group stood in silence, the tension in the air thick. They knew that sacrificing someone was unavoidable, but none of them wanted to make that decision. Each one feared for their future and the irreplaceable loss that would follow. Sarah looked at her friends, feeling a deep sorrow. She knew that without sacrifice, they wouldn't be able to save Lily. She turned back to the gate, thinking of Jack, who had sacrificed to save them all. "We can't give up. Lily won't be here forever," she said, her voice resolute. It was inevitable. The group made the heartbreaking decision together. Mark was the first to step forward, knowing that his sacrifice would be the only way to save Lily. "I'll do it," Mark said, his voice firm but full of emotion. Mark stepped through the gate, and immediately, a powerful surge of light engulfed him. The souls around began to rise, echoes of thanks and blessings filling the air. Once again, the space around them seemed to change, returning to peace. The group stood in silence, tears falling. Mark had sacrificed himself to save Lily, and the group had truly freed her soul. Although the loss was inevitable, they knew this had freed the trapped souls. Sampama.